memudahkan kita karena bahan belajar dapat diakses di mana saja dan kapan saja. Berkolaborasi dalam inovasi bersama Ener Club. Ener Club merupakan program yang bertujuan sebagai media kolaborasi dalam riset untuk semua kalangan, baik itu praktisi, fresh graduate, maupun mahasiswa. Ener Club merupakan wadah yang cocok untuk kalian yang hobi menulis atau yang sedang ingin membuat karya tulis. Tidak sampai di situ saja, riset yang dilakukan akan dikembangkan menjadi paper atau karya tulis yang nantinya akan dipublish di konferensi atau workshop nasional maupun internasional. Mari lihat jendela dunia energi bersama Ener Show. Ener Show merupakan suatu rangkaian acara webinar yang sudah terafiliasi langsung oleh praktisi-praktisi energi di Indonesia. Dengan berkolaborasi dengan organisasi-organisasi kemahasiswaan, NRK siap menyediakan webinar dengan topik yang diinginkan beserta praktisinya tanpa harus melalui proses birokrasi yang bertele-tele, alias cepat dan mudah. Belajar energi lebih dalam bersama Enerlight. Enerlight merupakan hands-on training yang diadakan oleh NRK. Enerlight merupakan program training terjadwal di mana materi akan dibahas secara mendalam langsung oleh praktisi yang ahli di bidangnya. Fasilitas apa saja yang akan didapat? Berikut merupakan fasilitas yang bisa didapatkan dari mengikuti program training Enerlight. Mau tahu lebih lengkapnya? Yuk bergabung bersama kami. Stay tune terus di sosial media NRK agar selalu mendapatkan update terkini terkait acara-acara di NRK. NRK, gali ilmu praktisi. Hai Ener Friends, selamat datang di NRK. Platform edukasi energi berbasis teknologi pertama di Indonesia. Bersama-sama, kita meningkatkan kompetensi anak bangsa dalam rangka mendukung perkembangan proyek energi di Indonesia. Menyediakan wahana edukasi kepada semua bagian dari industri, mulai dari mahasiswa, fresh graduate, hingga profesional. Penasaran dengan dunia industri energi dan perkembangannya? Yuk, simak program-program dari kami. Gali ilmu praktisi bersama Enerclass. Enerclass merupakan platform digital yang berisi kursus online dengan fokus pada topik energi yang diisi langsung oleh praktisi energi di Indonesia. Di Enerclass, kalian akan mendapatkan video materi, e-book untuk mendukung proses belajar, kuis di setiap bab, dan final test di akhir kursus. Dan tentu saja, kalian juga akan mendapatkan sertifikat setelah menyelesaikan kursus. Enerclass memudahkan kita karena bahan belajar dapat diakses di mana saja dan kapan saja. Berkolaborasi dalam inovasi bersama Ener Club. Ener Club merupakan program yang bertujuan sebagai media kolaborasi dalam riset untuk semua kalangan, baik itu praktisi, fresh graduate, maupun mahasiswa. Ener Club merupakan wadah yang cocok untuk kalian yang hobi menulis atau yang sedang ingin membuat karya tulis. Tidak sampai di situ saja, riset yang dilakukan akan dikembangkan menjadi paper atau karya tulis yang nantinya akan dipublish di konferensi atau workshop nasional maupun internasional. Mari lihat jendela dunia energi bersama Ener Show. Ener Show merupakan suatu rangkaian acara webinar yang sudah terafiliasi langsung oleh praktisi-praktisi energi di Indonesia. Dengan berkolaborasi dengan organisasi-organisasi kemahasiswaan, NRK siap menyediakan webinar dengan topik yang diinginkan beserta praktisinya tanpa harus melalui proses birokrasi yang bertele-tele, alias cepat dan mudah. Belajar energi lebih dalam bersama Enerlight. Enerlight merupakan hands-on training yang diadakan oleh Enerka. Enerlight merupakan program training terjadwal di mana materi akan dibahas secara mendalam langsung oleh praktisi yang ahli di bidangnya. Fasilitas apa saja yang akan didapat? Berikut merupakan fasilitas yang bisa didapatkan dari mengikuti program training Enerlight. Mau tahu lebih lengkapnya? Yuk bergabung bersama kami! Stay tune terus di sosial media Enerka agar selalu mendapatkan update terkini terkait acara-acara di Enerka. Enerka, gali ilmu praktisi. Hai Ener Friends, selamat datang di Enerka. Platform edukasi energi berbasis teknologi pertama di Indonesia. Bersama-sama, kita meningkatkan kompetensi anak bangsa dalam rangka mendukung perkembangan proyek energi di Indonesia. Menyediakan wahana edukasi kepada semua bagian dari industri, mulai dari mahasiswa, fresh graduate, hingga profesional. Penasaran dengan dunia industri energi dan perkembangannya? Yuk, simak program-program dari kami. Gali ilmu praktisi bersama Enerclass. Enerclass merupakan platform digital yang berisi kursus online dengan fokus pada topik energi yang diisi langsung oleh praktisi energi di Indonesia. Di Enerclass, kalian akan mendapatkan video materi, e-book untuk mendukung proses belajar, kuis di setiap bab, dan final test di akhir kursus. Dan tentu saja, kalian juga akan mendapatkan sertifikat setelah menyelesaikan kursus. Enerclass memudahkan kita karena bahan belajar dapat diakses di mana saja dan kapan saja. Berkolaborasi dalam inovasi bersama Enerclub. Enerclub merupakan program yang bertujuan sebagai media kolaborasi dalam riset untuk semua kalangan, baik itu praktisi, fresh graduate, maupun mahasiswa. Enerclub merupakan wadah yang cocok untuk kalian yang hobi menulis atau yang sedang ingin membuat karya tulis. Tidak sampai di situ saja, riset yang dilakukan akan dikembangkan menjadi paper atau karya tulis yang nantinya akan dipublish di konferensi atau workshop nasional maupun internasional. Mari lihat jendela dunia energi bersama Enershow. Enershow merupakan suatu rangkaian acara webinar yang sudah terafiliasi langsung oleh praktisi-praktisi energi di Indonesia. Dengan berkolaborasi dengan organisasi-organisasi kemahasiswaan, Enerka siap menyediakan webinar dengan topik yang diinginkan beserta praktisinya tanpa harus melalui proses birokrasi yang bertele-tele, alias cepat dan mudah. Belajar energi lebih dalam bersama Enerlight. Enerlight merupakan hands-on training yang diadakan oleh Enerka. Enerlight merupakan program training terjadwal di mana materi akan dibahas secara mendalam langsung oleh praktisi yang ahli di bidangnya. Fasilitas apa saja yang akan didapat? Berikut merupakan fasilitas yang bisa didapatkan dari mengikuti program training Enerlight. Mau tahu lebih lengkapnya? Yuk bergabung bersama kami! Stay tune terus di sosial media Enerka agar selalu mendapatkan update terkini terkait acara-acara di Enerka. Enerka, gali ilmu praktisi. Hai Ener Friends, selamat datang di Enerka. Platform edukasi energi berbasis teknologi pertama di Indonesia. Bersama-sama, Kita meningkatkan kompetensi anak bangsa dalam rangka mendukung perkembangan proyek energi di Indonesia. Menyediakan wahana edukasi kepada semua bagian dari industri, mulai dari mahasiswa, fresh graduate, hingga profesional. Penasaran dengan dunia industri energi dan perkembangannya? Yuk, simak program-program.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to EnerShow, a collaborative webinar proudly brought to you by EnerClass. I'm Farhan Izzat, staff of Inaga EGMSC, and I'll be your master of ceremony for today's engaging discussion on geothermal energy for tomorrow's leaders. We are thrilled to have you all join us from various parts of the world. We have an exciting lineup of speakers and collaborations with leading organizations in the field. So let's dive in and explore the future of geothermal energy together. Today, we embark on a journey into the world of sustainable energy. Our focus is on geothermal energy for tomorrow's leaders. Stay tuned for valuable insights from our esteemed speakers and partners. Next. This event would not be possible without the collaborative efforts of key companies and organizations. We extend our gratitude to the International Geothermal Association, or the IGA, Geoenergis, Enerka, and the Indonesian Geothermal Association Gajah Mada University Student Chapter, or the INAGA UGMSC. Their support is instrumental in making today's webinar a reality. All right, before we proceed, let's ensure a smooth and focused session. Participants, kindly adhere to the following housekeeping rules. Number 1, please turn off your microphone. Number 2, please turn off your camera. Number 3, please stay focused during the webinar and the discussions. And number 4, please be active during the Q&A session. Let's make this webinar interactive and informative. All right, now before we get started though, let's hear some opening remarks from a representative of the Indonesian Geothermal Association, Universitas Gajah Mada Student Chapter, or Inaga UGMSC. They play a pivotal role in fostering awareness and interest in geothermal energy amongst the next generation of leaders. Over to you, Mas Ridanta.
Okay, thank you, Farhan. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this exciting collaborative webinar on geothermal energy for tomorrow's leader, held by Enerka, Geoenergy, AGA, and Inaga UMSD. We are honored to have distinguished speaker, Ms. Marit Brommer and Mr. Sam Abraham, who will be sharing their insight on this critical topic. As we gather here today, representatives from various organizations, united by common goal, we embark on a journey to explore vast potential of geothermal energy and its implication for the leaders tomorrow. Our speakers, Marit, Brommer, and Sam Abraham, bring a wealth of knowledge and experience to guide us through the intricacies and harnessing geothermal energy for sustainable future. Geothermal energy stands at the forefront of renewable energy, offering a clean and reliable source of power. In the capable hands of today's experts, we will delve into technology advancement, environmental benefits, and the role of emerging leaders can play in shaping the future of this industry. This collaboration among diverse organizations reflects our commitment to fostering innovation, sharing expertise, and creating a collective impact on the path toward a more sustainable and resilient future. Let us this opportunity to learn, exchange ideas, and inspire one another to become leader will drive to the geothermal energy sector forward. I extend my sincere gratitude to Marit Brommer and Sam Abraham for generously sharing their time and expertise with us today. May this webinar catalyst for new ideas, partnership, and initiative that will contribute to advancement of geothermal energy and ultimately a cleaner, greener planet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mas Ridanta, for the opening remarks. Now we are also honored to have Dr. Kasani, the faculty advisor of Inaga UGMSC, with us today. Pak Kasani, please welcome.
Okay, thank you to the Master of Ceremony. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Pak.
It is an honorable for me as one of the advisors of Indonesian Geothermal Association, Gajah Mada University Student Center. And I show here Bu Pri Utami, another advisor also joining this event. To deliver a short speech in this such prestigious and marvelous events, since we have two distinguished and recognized speakers and experts worldwide. First is Marit Brommer as CEO of IGA, and second is Sam Abraham as advisor of IGA. Thank you very much to both of you for sharing your knowledge and experiences. Well, first of all, in this good opportunity, I would like to update you with the current issues, at least in the groups where I join, namely Indonesian Geothermal Association, which is a formal organization, and geothermal community or group with broader membership in formal form. And since the early 1980s, where we had the first geothermal power plants, namely Kamojang, West Java, up to now, the issues remain the same about an attractive electricity price, high-risk exploration, mainly drilling rates on success ratio and cost, decline rate, acidity, scaling, political uncertainty, regulation, technology, and especially a social problem. As the member of intellectual community in our university, technology issue becomes important to be addressed. And of course, without leaving other issues. And talking the technology issues, we may group it as one related to volcanogenic hydrothermal systems. And in recent years, we have been introduced by technologies such as EGS, Enhanced Geothermal Systems, IGS, Advanced Geothermal Systems, and the most recent one is AQG, Enhanced Quantum Geothermal. So based on your knowledge and interest, you may involve in developing those technologies. And again, it's of course, we need to pay attention to other issues. Based on my observation, there are two reasons why many problems have not been solved yet. That is minimum knowledge and strong and committed leadership. So I appreciate the collaboration among different institutions, NRK, Indonesian Geothermal Association, INAGA, Universitas Gajah Mada Student Chapter, and Geoenergis to hold this event. At least it can help to the participants, and I'm quite sure that most of the participants are students or young generations, especially to get the knowledge in many aspects of geothermal, as well as other insights, soft skills required for the good leaders in the future. And I hope we will get them from our distinguished speakers. Well, I think that's all about my speech. Thank you for joining these events and have a nice and fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Kasani, for the insightful opening speech there. Next, we have the privilege also from hearing from Bu Pri Utami, PhD, the head of the Geothermal Research Center at Universitas Gajah Mada, or the GRC. Bu Pri, please set the tone for today's discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Isaac, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to deliver an opening remark in this very interesting webinar. First, congratulations to NRK and all the collaborators and supporters, including the INAGA UGM Student Chapter, Geoenergis, IGA, and INAGA. Very warm welcome to our speakers, my good friends, Marit Brommer. Hello, Marit. It must be very early morning in your place. And also very warm welcome to Sam Abraham. As many of you are aware that Indonesia has about 23 megawatt total potential and they are all scattered in more than 360 locations with diverse geologic settings. However, currently our geothermal electricity generations is only about 1/10 of that potential, and it comes only from the high temperature quaternary volcano-hosted geothermal systems. How about those associated with older volcanism or plutonism, metamorphic rocks, sedimentary basins, and deep-reaching faults? Aren't we also interested to tap the energy from much deeper layer of the crust at the points which have not been reached by conventional drilling? From my geologic point of view, the challenge to understand all those prospects are enormous, but we must answer it. And the technology side, how are we going to accelerate the geothermal technology development to catch up with the ever-increasing energy demand and to keep up our consistency in mitigating the climate change? What can we learn from other countries? We would like also to hear from our speakers, how do people with different background of knowledge and expertise work together, build career together for the advancement of this clean and renewable energy. A 2-hour webinar is short, we realize that, but I'm optimistic that our speakers will inspire us, boost the spirit of our young people, such that they are brave to take up the challenges. Thank you so much, Marit and Sam. Happy webinar, all the best, and thank you. Okay, Isa, thank you.
Thank you very much, Wupri, for the insightful opening there as well. Now, I guess it's time for us to delve some insights from Enerka. I'm pleased to hand over the webinar to a representative from Enerka. Nadia, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you, Farham. Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Nadia from Enerka. On behalf of Enerka, I extend a warm greetings to all of you joining us today. I also want to express our heartfelt thanks to IGA, Inaga UGM, and Geoenergies as our collaborators today. And also thank you for Pak Kasani and Bupri for the opening remarks. And I'm seeing some of new faces and names here, and perhaps some of you are hearing about Enerka for the first time. So let me introduce about Enerka. Enerka is an energy education platform. We offer webinars and training sessions focusing on the energy topics. We also provide our recorded webinars on our YouTube channel, including this webinar. So you can subscribe our YouTube channel and learn about energy anytime, everywhere. Should you have a question or need further information about our webinars and training session, please feel free to contact us. Last but not least, don't forget to follow Enerka on social media to stay updated on our upcoming events. Thank you and enjoy the webinar. Giving it back to Farhan.
Thank you very much, Nadia, for the insights on Enerka. Now, I would like to hand over the reins of our cable moderator, Kak Serina. Kak Serina will guide us through the next segment and introduce us to our distinguished speakers. So let's give a warm welcome to Kak Serina.
Thank you so much, Farhan. So good morning, everyone, and good afternoon, Pak Sam in California. So there is saying in Indonesia that say tak kenal maka tak sayang. So let me introduce myself. I'm Serina Andiani from Geoenergies, who will be the moderator for today's webinar. Today, we will acquire new knowledge from Bu Marit Brommer and Pak Sam Abraham about geothermal energy. I know that we are very excited for this webinar. So let's get to know our speaker for today's webinars. Okay, first is Bu Marit Brommer. Bu Marit obtained her master degree in Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam and continue her doctoral study in Delta University of Technology. Currently, she is the Chief Executive Officer of International Geothermal Association International Association, and she has extensive experience in the energy industry, including roles as an A&P technologist at Shell and an exploration and production geologist at Total NIP Netherlands. And for our second speaker today, please next. Okay, our second speaker today is Pak Sam Abraham. He got his master's degree from the National University of Greater San Diego in USA and continue his doctoral degree at the University of Oklahoma. Currently, Pak Sam is drilling expert of Geothermal Development Company in Kenya and also the Vice President Operation of Geothermal Research Group. And he has a lot of experience in geothermal industry. One of that is geothermal technical expert consultant of World Bank. Okay, so our speaker today is awesome. So before we move on to the presentation sessions, I will provide some important information in today's webinar. So this webinar will consist 3 sessions of presentations, and at the end of the sessions, we'll have a quiz. The quiz will use Mentimeter, and there are winners. That winners will get some prize from the committee. Therefore, we encourage all participants to focus on the participating in this webinar. For the Q&A sessions will be open after the end of the session's presentations. But if you have any questions during the presentations, feel free to chat them in the chat box. Okay, without further ado, let's start with the presentation session. So I want to say hello to Bu Marit and Pak Sam. Are you ready for today's webinar?
Hi. Yes, I am ready. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, maybe I think Pak Sam and Bu Marit cannot wait to share the knowledge for us. So Bu Marit and Pak Sam, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Ibu Marit, ready to go.
Yes. Will we pop up the slides?
Yes.
Very good. In the meantime, a very good morning, good day, and good afternoon to everyone. It is an honor to be here, and thanks for the invitation to speak together with Sam on geothermal energy. So thank you for the coming 2 hours in which hopefully you will get all the knowledge that we can share with you around geothermal energy for tomorrow's leaders. Thank you, Serena and Nadia and the MC, of course, for guiding us through today. And of course, the introductions on both Pak Sam and myself. And we're here to take this in 3 pieces. And yeah, let's start with the first piece. Maybe move to the next slide. So we start with a small introduction about geothermal energy, but I would really like us to take one step back and look at the worldwide, globally speaking, our energy consumption as it stands in 23. And as you can see on the left-hand side of the picture, it's where actually all the fossil fuels are listed. Exactly, thank you. Where all the fossil fuels are listed. And on top of it is certain renewables, such as solar and wind. And then there is other renewables, including, of course, geothermal. And as you can see, somewhere around 1950s, really the energy consumption, so the worldwide consumption of all the energy sources started to dramatically increase, basically through fossil fuels consumption. But also, let's say 20, 30 years ago, we have seen an advancement of, in general, renewable energies, but in particular solar and wind. And if you then look at the right-hand side of the diagram, where it is a little bit split more in detail over the past years, we still see that there is a very dominant consumption of fossil fuels. Of almost 80% of our energy consumption worldwide is still based on coal, on gas, and on oil. And actually, the addition in the energy transition has been happening through the electricity generation of the renewables of solar and wind, and I am still very happy to see that. And at the same time, we see a very strong base load coming from the hydroelectric. So hydropower is a very strong component in renewable energy. And geothermal energy somewhere, somehow is also part of this mix. But from a global point of view, we are very small as contributors towards electricity. And also when it comes down to offering heating and cooling solutions, we are there. We are almost always listed as a group called Other Renewable Technologies, but we are there. Maybe next slide. And that sort of constant base of fossil fuels that we still see in 23 is very nicely illustrated in the picture that you have now in front of you, which is basically the change over the past 2 decades or 15, well, almost 15 years of data collection between the early 2000s and the current 2020, 2023, where we are standing. And actually that baseline of 80% fossil fuels has not significantly changed. And that means that, of course, we are using much more energy these days than 20 and 30 and 40 years ago. So that percentage of fossil fuels has effectively stayed the same. And that is, as certain introducers this morning said as well, that has its pertinent effect, which is now embraced by our global leadership as well as part of the political agenda to eradicate and to start tackling the adverse effects of climate change all around the world, regardless of where we're from. That this is a tough journey and that we need all the renewables is crystal clear. And we're here to speak more about the role of geothermal. And again, when you look at the numbers, our role at the moment is still very small. On the top end of the picture, you see that our other renewables, including geothermal, are only contributing not even 3% towards a global renewable energy mix. And I can tell you that out of that 3%, geothermal is less than 1 as a contributor towards geothermal energy. Having said that, how small we are, let's zoom a little bit in terms of our numbers, what we are actually doing, and maybe also for those of you who are less familiar with geothermal energy, what is geothermal energy? So maybe move to the next slide. First of all, again, from a global perspective, I would like to tell you a little bit where we find geothermal energy. And a very basic answer to that is that in general, we will find geothermal energy everywhere because it is the heat beneath our feet. Everywhere where you step on this planet, you will find heat beneath your feet. It is just depending how fast or how at what depth you will find a particular temperature or a particular energy density, something that we call enthalpy, in terms of where we can find that, where you stand, and the depth that you have to reach it into. And the volcanic zones, they are now highlighted in red across the world. For those who are coming from a geology background, this is a very familiar picture, I guess. As it is very much aligned with our tectonic boundaries. But this is where we typically and traditionally have looked into geothermal as one of the most favorable locations to drill into these resources because they can be very nicely tapped into to generate electricity with. Something that Indonesia have captured very, very nicely, but we'll come to that at a later session. The red marked areas are called the Ring of Fire, and they are also very nicely aligned with faults, specifically along subduction lines, and those are the edges of the tectonic plates where they are subsiding one to another. We also find very much, of course, geothermal energy in volcanic areas, Iceland, New Zealand, and of course Indonesia. are prime examples of capturing geothermal energy from volcanic deposits. But also in Africa, a rift valley known for its wonderful assets, and currently Kenya is leading when it comes down to developing geothermal energy from a rifting system. And there are much more countries, of course, along the African rift that are one day, I would say, as big as Kenya when it comes down to producing geothermal energy from their rifting systems. But something that is very much upcoming are looking at what we may call lower temperatures, lower resource areas from sedimentary basins, but also granites. Now, this was not a typical, let's say, geological playground for the geothermal industry until, I would say, a decade ago, when people started to realize in the knowledge base around energy transition and unlocking all the potential technologies that granites, but also sedimentary basins actually offer a fantastic resource type for producing geothermal energy, and may not yet be for electricity, but definitely for the direct utilization of geothermal energy for heating and cooling, because typically these resources are between 2 and 3 kilometers depth located, and yielding between 60 and 90 degrees Celsius, I'm speaking about, as opposed to these rifts of fire or in the a ring of fire, volcanic deposits, or in the rifts, where you typically find 250 degrees Celsius deposits. Move over to the next slide, please. This is a snapshot of where the current electricity producers are located, and our power plants, so to speak, based on geothermal energy. And that is, of course, a one-to-one reflection of where the hottest areas around the world are sitting. And these are all, let's say, developed in the past 60, 70 years, with a few examples, for instance, on mainland Europe, in Italy, where the oldest geothermal power plant stands in Tuscany, which was built in 1915, which is over 100 years old. Next slide, please. On the left-hand side, you will find a diagram between depth on the y-axis and temperature on the x-axis. And Sam later on will dive in much more detail in terms of how we extract actually this energy from this type of resources that we find typically according to depth and temperature. Now, we wrote a paper, and this is now 5 years ago, and you can see what was also alluded in the introductory keynote speakers, that technology is super important, and technology goes fast, and innovation also in geothermal is needed to unlock all kinds of different resources that previously was not achievable or not viable. And at the moment, worldwide R&D organizations are looking into it. Why I'm saying this is, on the left-hand side, what I have marked there as not viable is actually becoming more and more viable these days, because we have more technologies to look into. But the left-hand diagram is still important to walk you through a couple of steps within the entire geothermal portfolio, if you like. The direct use is something we call, in a very shallow depth, all the way, still shallow, but all the way to 2 to 3 kilometers depth, where we are directly using geothermal energy for all kinds of purposes, but not so much electricity. We're using it for the direct utilization in spas, in balneology, for tourism. We're using it, for instance, in the greenhouse sector or in the fish industry, but also to heat up homes or to cool them down, because worldwide we have different needs and we have different desires what to do and how to consume our energy. Then, if you step to the right, you see what we call conventional hydrothermal, And that is everything between 100 and 200 degrees Celsius, typically again between 2 and 3 kilometers depth, where we are tapping directly into that reservoir and we're producing with a production well and a re-injection well, we're producing fluids and we're running a certain type of binary or a certain type of flash turbine plants to generate electricity with. If you go down in the diagram, and again in the middle, this is where the overlap sits with the oil and gas industry. Typically, the oil and gas industry is producing fluids, oil, gas, and also water from their hot sedimentary aquifers. And what you see more and more is that these two industries, the oil and gas industry with their wealth of knowledge and technologies that have been producing oil and gas in that segment, is now also looking into the geothermal industry. And this is where we see much more synergy these days around. Equally, EGS, also known as petrothermal, is standing for enhanced geothermal systems, where there is not necessary water in the reservoir, and hence there is a need to engineer the reservoir. Basically, we are making some openings through certain technologies or methodologies in order to stimulate flow in very tight space. Typically, these reservoirs are granites, and hence those were the, let's say, 4 very distinct type of geological and hence geothermal reservoir types that have enhanced the industry all over the world, both for the power, as you saw the map with the different power plants, but also the direct utilization for all the purposes that we discussed. The reason why I put up on the right-hand side a very nice picture that came from First Break is a magazine produced by the EAGE, the European Association for Geophysicists, earlier this year, is the move towards new technology. And as was already said in the introduction, the enhanced geothermal systems are being picked up through new technology. The way we look at, for instance, one well approaches, so producing both the fluids and re-injecting it in one flow, in one well, is a typical example of innovation. But also something we would call advanced geothermal, going deeper, going hotter, so the right technologies in order to withstand that type of temperature and harsh conditions down there. But also, instead of using the 2 or 3 or multiple wells approach, going more for a one closed loop system, as we call that. And that is all very exciting because new technology will bring new ideas, it will bring new insights, it will help us to navigate our space when it comes down to understanding how much we can still contribute in terms of energy towards the energy transition. And I would say go to the next slide. And with that, it is very clear that we are now moving to Sam, who can speak more about what we are actually producing from which type of depth.
Thanks, Ibu Marit. Selamat pagi to everybody there. So as we continue the discussion, if you just say, I don't know whether you all took a moment to just, if you go back to the first slide in this show, if you don't mind, go back to the first, yeah, just stop there. If you see that slide over there, you see something quite significant. And I wanted to just touch upon that before we go further. This is one of the places in the world that sits right in the middle of a national park, and the animals coexist with the geothermal plant that you see in the background. So that gives you a very good indication of what Ibu Marit was also talking, and Ibu Pri was also talking, and Pakistani was also talking, is how can we coexist together, number one. And people used to have a notion that geothermal is very dangerous. You know, like in Indonesia, I have worked in Indonesia for about 12 years. So Indonesia, there used to be a lot of fear about H2S or something that might be released and whether it can cause danger to the people, danger to the environment. But this goes, one of the pictures that I've taken myself is to show that things can coexist together. Now go back to that slide number 8, please. Okay, yeah. So here what Ibu Marit did touch upon that, and this is actually a continuation, a more simplistic diagram for those of you students who are looking at it. So here you see on the upper section, what you see there is the reservoirs. Normally you expect that gradient where you see that arrow key on the, yes, that arrow key, that is a normal gradient, 25 to about 60 degrees centigrade per kilometer. And normally what we want in terms of conventional geothermal wells is we are trying to extract the convective heat that is available in the earth to be able to produce that and produce power. And that's what that orange color extractable heat that is there, that is the amount of heat that you can extract based on that temperature. Now, that is traditionally what we used to call conventional geothermals, where you would use the heat in the ground, and that would actually get converted either into steam or a combination of steam and hot water, and that would be produced to surface, and then you would run it through a power plant and generate power. Now, also, if you did realize, I think so, the student should keep in mind one thing. I think Nadia said that there's going to be some quiz at the end of it, so just keep listening to what both of us speak. So the second part of that, Ibu Marit was talking about EGS and AGS. Why is that very important? That is where you are looking at not only convective heat, but conductive heat. So what she was talking about is using one well or two wells to pump down from one well. You are trying to conduct the heat that is there available in the ground and take it back to surface for different purposes. Now, if you go to the second bullet point there, that is something going to be very important from both. I'm sure the students who are listening to me are from geology as well as engineering backgrounds. So and here on the talk, you've got Ibu Marit, who's a geologist, and I come from a drilling engineering perspective. So here you're getting a perspective combined together of both of us. So now if you see the graph on the bottom part, you see the first yellow, the orange color, it says flash plants, steam turbines. So what is that? And if you see the x-axis over there, you see that those are the ones which have got the highest temperature resources, that they are based on that. So in those, what happens is the steam comes, and because it is very hot, or steam and hot water, which is then flashed, comes to the surface and it runs a turbine directly. So here, that is our flash plants. One of the things is that the flash plants were quite common at the start of it because people were looking for hot resources. Then as the hot resources were finished, now there were a lot of resources between not very hot, but still quite hot. If you see the binary plants, that temperature, there were a lot of things there, but people could not use it because there was no technology available. Then one of the leaders of that was Ormat, who went to making a binary plant. Now, for those who are chemists, what is binary? Binary means two systems. So what you do is the steam, rather than going and running a turbine, steam goes and heats a secondary fluid like pentane. The pentane flashes, goes into a steam phase, and goes and runs a turbine. So that was the advantage when binary plants were used to extract power or heat and produce power from resources that were not that hot. Now come to a stage, the third one, that orange, the brown color, direct use, what Ibu Marit touched upon. Now there is a lot of places where sometimes it is not very hot to generate binary, but nowadays there is, let me give you a small hint there for those of you all who are trying to step into becoming power plant people. Okay, so for y'all, keep in mind that now there is technology available that uses the steam of a much lower temperature, and that can be used. For example, if y'all are following the Indonesian power plant market, now KS Orca and a project that is called Sorik Merapi uses that type of technology, which can even generate power from as low as 150 degrees Celsius. Now, the last part of that, the direct use. Now, direct use comes into play when there are projects that are not very hot, but pretty hot. So what can we do with those? So there we are using it to not produce power, but also to use it for direct use. Like for example, if you know Dieng in Indonesia on Java Island, Dieng was very famous for potatoes. Now, if you go and see a project there, it is called Geothermal. So what is Geothermal? It is using geothermal heat to help produce better potatoes. So they made it a new name. You will not find this in the dictionary, but it is there. It's called Geothermal. So that is a project where using geothermal heat to grow better potatoes. Now, and I think so Ibu Marit also touched upon residual heat. Some of it is also being used to directly heat and cool places. For example, if you're in Iceland, you'll find it that it's very nice to walk on the footpaths where everywhere else there is snow, but the footpath there's no snow because there is a whole tubing system underneath that which just takes the geothermal heat and keeps the footpath hot when it is needed and keeps it ice-free. Now, the last part of that is what is EGS? She touched upon it, but that is where comes EGS. So now we are looking at technologies that were not there. I will come to that later. We are trying to extend the limits of technology. For example, for those of you all who are not familiar what I'm talking about, some of the geothermal directional drilling equipments cannot function above 175 degrees centigrade. They will burn away. So now we are working on new technologies where they're trying to find better equipments so that we can go deeper. If you see the other ones, they were shallower. If you see the depth on the left side, you see it was about 3 kilometers. Now we are trying to go deeper. So when you try to go deeper to almost 5 kilometers, you need new equipments because there's a higher temperature, higher pressure, and other problems that we need to face. Next slide, please. Hey, how much time do I have left on this one?
3
Nadia?
minutes more, Pak Sam.
Okay, 3 to 4 minutes more. Okay, I'll try to wrap it up. So now, for why is this very important? Why are we talking geothermal? And for those of you all who are looking forward to joining some new companies, like say in Indonesia, you got the private companies are Schlumberger, Halliburton, Baker Hughes, some of them, or even Chevron, which used to be first an oil and gas company, but now are going to geothermal also. They are all trying to do this oil and gas to geothermal transition. Why is this important? Is because they are used the same technology for drilling, but only thing here we are looking for not oil and gas, but here looking for steam and water. Now, one of the things to keep in mind, why is also this important? Everybody is trying to reduce their carbon footprint. How much can we reduce so that we have got less carbon issues? And that leads to climate change. Now, a couple of things there I would like to touch before we close. When you compare to oil and gas wells, geothermal wells are bigger in size because the thermal efficiency is lower. That's number one. Number two is you come into a lot of under pressure formations. What does that mean? You might see many times, and if you're walking along the volcanic zones, you find a lot of big craters that previously the lava has flown through, and now there is only a big crater. Now imagine if you're going to drill in the crater, you will just fall into that. So that is why sometimes people say, be careful when you're walking near a volcanic area. There may be holes that you may fall into it. Then I was talking about temperatures. There's high temperature involved in drilling compared to oil and gas. Then I think so Pakistani touched upon something. There are many acidic areas and problems where we face in Indonesia itself, like Serula in Indonesia on Sumatran Island. That has a very good resource, but it is very acidic. So we have to take care of that. One of the other things, many of them in oil and gas, you have got onshore and offshore. But so far, geothermal has been done only onshore. Maybe in the future, we may be doing offshore also. Last of it, one of the most things that come out along with the geothermal heat, brine or steam, is H2S. If you're used to walking around volcanic areas, you will find the rotten egg smell. That is the gas that is quite dangerous above a certain ppm. So these are things that if you're thinking of going into geothermal industry, to keep in mind. I think, is there any more slides on this one, or is this the last one? Thank you. I think we are keeping time.
Okay, thanks so much, Pak Sam, for the statements about it.
You are breaking up.
Sorry.
Serena, you're breaking up.
Oh, sorry. What about now, Pak Sam?
Yes, good.
Okay. Okay, so
No, you went back again. You were middle, it was clear, then you went back to break up.
Okay. How about now, Pak Sam?
Masih putus.
Can probably back her up.
Maybe,
Yes.
no
Don't be a problem. All right. Thank you to Dr. Brommer, who talked about the geoscience side of the geothermal energy as a doctorate from Delft, and Pak Sam, who discussed about the engineering side. Now it is time for our audience to engage in the quiz session. All right. Next, please. All right. Now to start the quiz, everyone, please go ahead and go to menti.com and enter the code or scan the QR code on the left corner there.
Okay, for the link for the management, I share on the chat box. You can use that for enter the presentation.
Serena masih putus. Serena masih putus.
I'll fix my connection.
There is some alien also in this team.
Yeah. All
Oh,
right,
sorry about the connection problem.
Yes, now
Okay.
better. Now it's better.
Okay, maybe I will turn off my camera for better
Yes.
connection. So sorry.
Yeah, that is better now.
Okay, Farhan, we will start the quiz in 30 seconds, I think. So for all the participants, let us play the quiz because there's something prizes that interesting for you. And please use your real name for the committee contact if you win these quizzes.
So the quiz is not for advisor, right?
Pak Kesani gak apa-apa, mau Haldia gak apa-apa.
Kalau dapat jelek nanti malu nanti.
Ya,
If Pak Kasing want to join, it's okay, Pak.
It's okay, it's okay.
Ibu Marit, do you want to play the quiz? You will get some prize too.
I have entered my name.
There you go.
No, it's a joke. Because Serena said I had to give my real name. Yeah.
Okay, maybe we will start the quiz in 3, 2, 1. Let's play the quiz. Okay. The first question is, the current worldwide energy situation is dominated by, is it solar, oil, or wind?
Let's see.
Would Marit just present these questions? But okay, Farhan?
All right, we got 34 seconds left.
Okay.
All right, we got 3
There's
people.
still some wrong answer, Farhan. Okay, we will next to the next questions.
Next question. How many seconds do you have?
Okay, this is the leaderboard. Bintang Kejora lead the leaderboard.
That is quite a tight score there.
Okay, for the second question.
primary source of heat for geothermal energy? Let's see, is it solar radiation, geysers, or Earth's core? We have 10 seconds left. Awesome, we got 30 people on Earth's core. That is correct.
Okay, let's see. Who is the leaderboard right now? Oh, Bintang Kejora still lead the quiz.
He's doing well.
Okay. Okay, we will next to the last questions.
Question 3 out of 3. Last question, everyone. Where do we find geothermal? Is it in volcanic areas or river areas? All right, time's up. Everyone got them all correct.
Okay, the session 1 quiz is ended, and who is the winner of this session?
Oh, Bintang got it, huh?
Okay. Okay, congratulations to Bintang Kejora. The committee will contact you by chat Zoom for the future informations. Okay, we will next to the session 2. Okay, I think I will give it back to Bu Marit and Pasem.
Okay.
Excellent, excellent, and congratulations, Bintang. Amazing, very nice quiz, right, Sam?
Hey, so yes, so as Ibu Marit, I think so will take the first part, but I wanted to just touch over here on this picture again. I've put these pictures very strategically for something. So what you see in the picture there was a client who wanted me to paint a picture of a horse. Okay, so he told me, Sam, you've got 1 week to do this job. Okay, I was doing it very nicely. From the back, I started doing all the tail and all, painting it very well. After about 2 days, he says, hey, Sam, I don't have 1 week. You should finish in 4 days. Okay, I said, fine. So I started making it a little bit better. But I could not spend too much time. Yes, I could not spend too much time on putting color, but I was getting there. Then on the 4th day, he said, no, Sam, I don't have till tomorrow. I want it tonight. I have to finish it. So I was already, feeling sleepy after working. Finally, he told me, you have to draw a horse. So he said, fine, okay. You wanted it cheaper because he does not want to pay too much of money. He said, make it cheaper. So what I did, finally, I drew a horse. So you see the picture where it started and what it ended up with. So something for you all as you go in future, for tomorrow's leaders, cheaper is not the quickest way. You have to do a thing properly. Please do not cut corners. I will come to that later in my presentation, but this is giving you a very simple example as tomorrow's leaders. When you all become project managers, drilling managers, geoscience managers, there is a time and a place required that you should do things properly. Doing it fast is not the best way. Thank you. Over to you, Ibu Marit.
Thanks, Sam. Always good to be reminded of do not cut corners. I like that very much, and I think it makes very good sense. Session 2 is starting with our potential. And this is a map, and I think it is a very nicely illustrated map by our friends from CGG, who have looked at heat flow data all around the world. So this is on the continental, let's say, shelves. And on land, of course, where we are hopefully one day drilling all these resources for geothermal energy. Now, this is a global picture of our potential. So this is not where we are currently everywhere active. This is what we could potentially reach. The darker the colors, the lower the temperature at that specific depth. And this is around 1 kilometer, 1.5 kilometer depth. meaning that if you look at it from a light perspective, everything yellow or light green, or let's say really in the eye looking light, that's where your typical hot resources sit. Again, of course, this is aligned with our volcanic regions, the rift, the valleys, etc. But very interesting is to look at that sort of orange to purple area. And those are exactly the areas that were typically discarded because they are the non-volcanic areas, but they are the granites, they are the hot sedimentary basins, and they are also those places where the oil and gas industry and our mining friends are active. So what this map shows you is that there are many places on this earth where geothermal energy has a super potential in terms of delivering energy, both to produce electricity, but certainly for utilizing geothermal resources for heating and for cooling. Next slide. And this is a picture where we are actually using geothermal energy at the moment for all the purposes as discussed. The areas that are on the right-hand side in the picture, so basically the country maps that are colored in, are the countries that we are currently having any type of activities in terms of utilizing geothermal resources. The countries that are colored in the, let's say, the darker color are countries where we are both seeing electricity and direct use. And in the lighter colored countries, we will see a predominantly direct utilization of geothermal energy. There are many projects in the pipeline. There are also certain projects already drilled. So this map is very likely to change in the foreseeable future. And that's the beauty of mapping, right? That we are constantly seeing changes. And we may be small as geothermal energy, but we are certainly adding more megawatts to the grid. On the left-hand side, and I appreciate that it may be very small to read, but what I would like to take you from this picture is the two end users of geothermal energy in numbers. The top hand of the figure is about heating and cooling, also known as direct use or the direct utilization of geothermal energy. And the donut diagram gives in 5 distinct categories the amount of megawatts or joule in terms of energy utilization for the direct utilization of the geothermal resources. And these categories range from heating and cooling, for which the majority is used, to agriculture, to balneology, to fish farming, and to what we call other uses, such as what Sam was already referring to. Sometimes you can walk the pavement, the rest is all under the snow, but your pavement is nice and dry, and that is because of geothermal heating just below the pavement. Now, I appreciate that in Indonesia, snow may not be something that you are aware, that you encounter a lot, but there are places on this planet where we do get some snow, including, of course, Iceland and the northern countries where you see a lot of these type of geothermal applications. The second picture on the left-hand side is about electricity. At the moment, we have a current installed capacity for geothermal electricity of 16.3. To be exact, 16.26 gigawatts electric is installed worldwide in 31 countries. So 31 countries have power plants, and together they are producing 16.3 gigawatts electric. I forgot to say around the direct utilization, that equates to, in total, to 173 gigawatt thermal, 173 gigawatt thermal in 88 countries. So in 88 countries, we have projects utilizing geothermal energy, equating to 173 gigawatt thermal, as opposed to the electricity in 31 countries that equates to 16.3 gigawatts electric. Now that's a lot. I mean, we are not denying that we are adding some significant values to the grid, to people's homes, in the industry, produce foods. We are a mature industry. However, as I told you in the first slide, if you look at the global consumption, we are still very small. And that is sometimes the reason why we are not always taken as serious as the other renewable technologies. Next slide, please. Sam, over to you.
Thank you. So what Ibu Marit just gave us is a snapshot and something that we are doing currently and what we plan to achieve for globally. Now let's focus on Indonesia. I'm sure some of the engineers and geologists who are listening to us will think of going overseas also. Let's keep that bigger frame in mind. But now some of you all may plan to work in Indonesia itself, because in Indonesia, we've got enough of place to work and there's enough of technology, capacity, and expertise available from our previous, the leaders who have gone in front of us. And to say one thing, when Ibu Pri was talking and Pak Asani, I have worked in Indonesia and I have got a lot of colleagues who all come from UGM. Ibu Marit UGM is one of the universities that sends out one of the best cream of geologists and technology people into the geothermal industry and the oil and gas industry also. So I'm sure when we talk of future leaders, I'm sure we are talking to some of them. So just keep us in mind when you go big. Just keep us in mind that, Ibu Marit and Sam spoke to us someday. So now here what you're looking at is the first, it was Pak Asani who said the first plant was in Kamojang back in 1983. That was our first start of geothermal. Then if you see there was a sort of a very slow pace till about 2000 where, it went on, but it was very slow. We were adding capacity slowly. Then came a whole new challenge where we started, I would say, we broke the ice and we broke we got the key to how can we improve things better. That key was quite important in improving Indonesia's view in the global market itself. That is where people then started taking us very seriously. Oh, these guys know what they're doing. And they are showing results. Not only, sometimes it's very easy to walk, it's very easy to talk, but it's very difficult to walk the talk. And that's what I think so between all the companies in Indonesia as we speak now, especially spearheaded by Pertamina, Geodipa, then there is Star Energy, Supreme, all of them came together. And now it is a collective attitude that has helped for the growth of the Indonesian geothermal industry. Now we are in about, say, 2022. What is our plan ahead? That ambition is really ambitious. When you say of 2030, we want to go from 2,300. You're almost talking of doubling that potential that we have. Yes, currently it is potential. Can we make it a success? That is where I want to challenge all the students who are listening to me and those who are young graduates. Now is your chance to shine. Now is the time that you have to think that you all can be a part of the workforce. Not everybody becomes a manager. There are plant managers and there are plant operators. Without a plant operator, the plant manager cannot run the plant. So sometimes everybody cannot be the bosses, but some of them have to be technicians. But this is a whole industry-wide perspective that every one of you all can find your own niche place in this industry within Indonesia itself, based on what we plan to grow in the next 7 to 8 years. We are almost at the end of 2023. So you've got 6 years left can you go from what we are now to our government goal of 5,800 megawatts? It is a challenge. It can be achieved to some extent, but that is why I showed you the first picture. You cannot cut corners. If you have to paint that horse properly, you have to get prepared to paint that horse properly. It will take some time, but how you do it is the most important thing. Can we make it a target? Yes, it's a target, and it's very much achievable to a lot of extent. And how we train our capacity building for our people is the most important thing. Next slide. Okay, so here we were talking about our installed capacity. So if you see on the left side, you see most of them are single flash. So what is it is single flash is you are just using the flash from the steam to run it one time. Sometimes we actually reflash that and use it the second time. So you sometimes call that a double flash. For example, Muara Labo is a double flash. Then we've got some areas like say Kamojang. Some areas has a mixture of water and steam. So that is almost a mixed resource. Whereas some areas like in Kamojang, Darajat is dry steam. But all these places, what we do is, and then you see down below Lahendong and the others are also binary plants. So in Indonesia, we got a whole mix of various technologies that can be applied. But if you look at the whole, just see, for example, and this is a challenge that I want to give you all. Look at Indonesia as a whole, right from the top tip of Aceh down to the end of East Irian Jaya or East Papua, right? Or West Papua. If you see till there, how much of area has been developed? It is very small. And that goes also in the global perspective. When Ibu Marit was talking about, we just form 1% of the global energy mix. Same thing here. There are a lot of resources along the Indonesian Ring of Fire patch that have not been developed so far. Some of them are even looking at small islands, like for example, Lahendong. Those islands, development is quite important because sometimes those islands require just enough of power to power themselves. So you do not even have to transmit power over long regions, but you can use it locally in that region. That's what we call it's called island network, where enough of power to make that island self-sufficient. What does that improve? As you all step in as leaders of the future, what improves there is it helps to improve the socio-economic situation of the people. It helps with food security. Why do I say food security quite important in the Indonesian context? Many a times, if you go to, like in Jakarta, if you go to Pasar Minggu, and for Ibu Marit, Pasar Minggu is one of the local fruit markets in Jakarta. So if you go at the end of the day, you will find lots of fruit being just wasted away because there was no way to process that fruit. Now, if you can use some of these direct use facilities to process that fruit, so you will have mangoes in non-mango season, right? So there, what you are improving is your food security is improved. And if you've got people who are fed, are not hungry, that makes a difference. Next slide, please. Now, this is now the next challenge. I gave you all the challenge earlier on the slide. Now is the challenge in actual. These are the amount of geothermal prospects that are available currently in Indonesia that have not been developed. So that is what is specially prospects. Like when Ibu Marit showed on a global scale, there are so many areas that have not been developed. So here is now what I think this was also coming through the Indonesian Directorate of Panas Bumi. What they want is, they want to attract local investors as well as global investors. These are areas that have very good potential. And I would say why I say very good potential. Having worked around the world, some of the best geothermal resources that I've worked on are in Indonesia. And sometimes it is a problem of, I think Sopa Kasani was also talking, and Ibu Pri also spoke about, sometimes it's stakeholder engagement. How can we work together with stakeholders to be able to make a project a success? So this is what you have now as prospects that can be developed. Now you, all the students who are listening, in a few years' time, you will be passing out and ready to take on that challenge. Do you have a challenge to run? Yes, here is the challenge to catch up. And now think of it, how can you all become a part of this? That is what we wanted to show out of this slides also, is that there is a resource in Indonesia available, what we needed capacity or what we need personal to run this thing. You can wear different hats. You can be a geologist, engineer, different things, but this is what you're looking forward to. Nadia or Serena, how much time do I have left?
Still 9 minutes, Pak Sam.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Next slide. Ibu Marit, you are in charge.
Yes. I think Sam already alluded to it. I like this example of the fruit of the market and not letting it go to waste. I think that is a very good example of what geothermal can bring to both a country need, but also from a company point of view, in terms of its corporate and its social responsibility. Now, many companies around the world are very much aware of that. They have a goal, of course, for making profits for their own bottom line, but also a goal to be part of society. And hence, the corporate responsibility becomes becomes almost a business model as well, that they are willing to invest in for their employees, for their region, for their country when they are in a certain jurisdiction and they have, for instance, to do that because the government tells them to do that. But equally important is it for certain countries, and I guess in the Indonesia case, as Sam was already telling, there were so many opportunities for geothermal direct use to play a role in that in that end, but also to that end. So in the current situation, and I think Sam, you will chip in when it comes down to certain examples. But in the current situation in Indonesia, there were a couple of prime examples where, for instance, Pertamina was already mentioned as the biggest company in Indonesia producing electricity in their steam assets, but then also using part of that steam that is not used for the electricity, using that steam to do other stuff with. And that other activity, that other usage of that geothermal resource, for instance, drying coffee beans or producing palm sugar, and seeing that as a product that can be sold in a community, can be exported to other regions or even to other countries. And hence it creates value, of course, for the company, but definitely for the community, because people get jobs. People get jobs, the community gets income, there is a revenue, there is a product, and there is pride. Because when you're proud at something that you have achieved through a product that you have built or that you have helped develop, by utilizing energy that came from an asset that is part of a bigger company, you are part of a bigger system. And I guess this is what corporate social responsibility is really about, that it's not just adding money to someone's bottom line, but that you are part of a system that is providing each and everyone in that system a right to live, a place to live, but also a revenue and an income stream to be good to your community. And to have that sort of giving back opportunity for a company is also very important. Sam, maybe over to you, where some examples can clarify the point.
Yeah, for example, if you all are not aware that if you see North Sulawesi where it talks about palm sugar, I'll give an example. That same place, when they used to produce sugar, palm sugar, using wood to heat the place, they were just producing palm sugar, and you could buy it in the market in Jakarta for, say, 1 kilogram of palm sugar for, say, 10,000 rupees. Okay. Now what happened? They went and used geothermal heat to do that same thing. So suddenly now what happened is you were making green geothermal palm sugar. Okay, so now what happened? They started not only selling here and back in Jakarta, but they went actually to Europe and they are selling this as now green, environmental friendly palm sugar. So they put a green label to that. So now what happened suddenly? The 10,000 rupees palm sugar went to almost 40,000 rupees per kilogram of palm sugar. Did it help the economy? Yes. Did it make a lot more of people in the local region wanting to join this process? Yes. And what did also help? Some of the money that they got back from that, they used it for local schools to be developed. Okay, so then they also that also provided education. These are things that not only sometimes you cannot make a quantitative assessment of what you're doing, but you're actually helping the whole process. Plus, stakeholder engagement. I think so. Ibu Marit touched upon that. Once again, I would like to. I've seen some of the projects globally which have had problems because the stakeholders were not a part of the whole process. This happens very much in and a lot of places you have started a project and somebody has come and set up a strike. You have had to stop drilling. On the other hand, like for example in Indonesia or in New Zealand also, when the stakeholders are a part of this whole team, as we say, you are not going to go and rob from your own house, right? So that makes a difference. If it's my own house, I have a pride in that one. Next slide. Okay, I will jump on this and then Ibu Marit can take over because she's the one who's got the money. I don't have that money. I can only talk. Okay, so now we were talking of community issues. Okay, is there any demand for geothermal? Yes, there's certainly demand, not only for power, but all the other things. Community issues, I just touched upon. What happens there? Once a community issues start off, then you've got a lot of friction in the community when a project has to start. Third thing, so with that stakeholder engagement, your community issues are taken care of. Now, when you are building projects, you need a rig to come to that site. You need a power plant to be built there. So what happens there? The operator, like Pertamina, also has to be a part of those who build the access road facilities, infrastructure and enhancement. So that becomes a beneficial thing for not only the power plant, but also all the people in the region. Then you see there is post-harvest. I touched upon that. That is about I gave an example of mangoes being wasted. Then I will switch to inadequate human competency. This is something very critical. Why I touched upon that is I have seen this happen in different places around the world where you do not have the people getting trained properly. And what happens when you have an untrained person going and doing the work? He does it half-heartedly or he cannot really do the whole thing properly. But I think I would give all the credit to the way that things have happened in Indonesia so far, but there is certainly levels to improve. Like say we got ITB Bandung, we got UGM, we got different universities in Indonesia which are producing really quality students prepared for the future work. But work means it's not only just sitting and becoming a manager. Sometimes to become a manager, you have to start from the lower and build up. That helps you to come better. I'll stop there. I'll leave Ibu Marit economic, inadequate, and government policies. Go ahead, Ibu Marit.
Well, thanks, Sam. Okay, so what I have seen in the projects when it comes down to, and let me start with government policies first, because I think that is a very crucial one. Once a government has the political will, there will be the right policy framework allowing a geothermal project to happen. Now, in geothermal, it is very important that both the high enthalpy or the higher temperatures type of deposits, but also the lower temperature or deposits, the low temperature reservoirs can be developed for the two different purposes. And when the policies and hence when the regulatory framework, so basically the department at the government level who is regulating the legal affairs of the energy production and the licensing and hence the permits that you need to obtain on that specific site to do your operations, When all that falls into place, then you have a winning situation. But in many places around the world, that is a typical issue, that either there is not yet a policy, or there is no regulator, or there is no regulatory framework that is allowing geothermal energy to happen, or it only governs, for instance, the higher enthalpy side. So electricity can be produced, but you are not allowed to or you're not licensed to do the secondary or tertiary production on site. And hence, it is a typical hurdle, and hence a challenge for further geothermal development, which is a role that the IGA takes very serious in terms of advising and helping wherever we can in terms of educating governments around the world how to do this. And the best practices that we have seen in countries that have been through this learning curve, to take all that and to make that as a roadmap, as a library of choices, right? Pick your best practice policy on developing geothermal for direct uses, for instance. But what I would like to say in general around the policies, and hence government's role, is super important. Without a government support, geothermal energy, and any type of energy projects, by the way, but certainly geothermal energy, is not likely to fly. Equally, a big hurdle in any type of projects, but certainly for geothermal, is the economics, is getting to finance close. And hence the way many of the geothermal projects have been structured and have been planned for and have been come together in terms of seeing that through is hard work. It means that there is a lot of actors involved from all kinds of financial institutions, whether that's public money from the global market, it's predominantly World Bank and other types of development banks. It's a government that is then asking for that loan or asking for that grant system. But as always within geothermal, and Sam has always a good knowledge on this from the drilling side as well, there is risk, and that risk needs to be financed in all kinds of ways. And this is a typical hurdle again for geothermal. So the money that needs to come into geothermal is always balanced with a certain risk that the institutions are ready to take. And the biggest hurdle when it comes down to that economic feasibility, and hence the need for good geologists and good geoscientists, and hence for your future leaders, this is crucial, is to do the risk mitigation strategy for your geothermal project in the right way. Because that's the language that the financial people understand. They don't necessarily understand granites or volcanics, but they do understand that what's the probability of success? If I drill this exploration well and I don't know a lot about this area, what's the risk of this well not hitting the right target or the right amount of temperature or the right flow in the well? And hence economic feasibility and speaking to the finance community from a geological perspective is super important. From a drilling perspective, and this is where Sam comes in, I think this is the knowledge that we need to gather much more. And again, as IGA, we are working on this, what our actual drilling successes are. Now, I know from a study that we have actually a very good probability of success. It's around 75 to 80%. Which is extraordinary when it comes down to comparing ourselves to the oil and gas. But still, financing an 80% probability of success well is hard. Sam, something to add?
No, I think you are good on that. Thank you.
Okay.
Next slide, if there's any. I think so. There's one more slide. Is there?
So too.
Please go ahead. Okay. This is the last slide on this section. So I think we touched upon something, but I like to talk. These are pictures that have been captured from actual fields. Some of the challenges, I just wanted to give you all a brief. One of the challenges that I faced was here. This was the first well being drilled on the island of Dominica in the Caribbean. There was never a rig taken up there. So what we had to do, we had to cut through roads, so we had to do a whole planning stage, make new roads or broaden the roads before we could actually take the rig on. This is a challenge. This is the same thing that happens in some of the islands in Indonesia, which are very hilly. Now, I did speak about no cutting corners. This goes hand in hand, no compromise on safety. And this is a picture that I have not clicked, but this is a poster. But what do you want? If you know that, normally if a car breaks down, you've got some spares. But you see here what the poster says. These ones do not come with any spares. So if you want your grandkids to hold your fingers, make sure you work safely. Then if you see here, what happens is there is a lot of heavy equipment involved, and you see a very good indication of what happens. This is a drilling rig over here on the top side where you see the rig, and next to that you see steam flowing. So that is what we are looking for. As Ibu Marit was talking, we have to mitigate the risk, drill a well, and if the risk has been mitigated, if I get a good well, that means my investors are also happy. Hey, I gave this guy $5 million to drill this well. The geologist did a very good job of giving me a target. The drilling guy did a very good job of getting to the target properly and getting steam to surface. Job well done. Now, one of the problems is environmental issues. You see this down below on the right side. If you see, that is a blowout that happened in one of the wells. These are things that happen if you do not plan properly. So we have to always keep this as a part of the risk that's involved. How do you mitigate the risk? You plan properly. You keep the equipments on standby. Sometimes you have to keep those equipments on standby even if you do not use them. But they are required because sometimes it is like having a spare tire on your truck or on your car. You do not want to use it, but sometimes you have to use it. Last thing, you see the picture on the left side down below. This is what we call teamwork. As you go back to offices in future, as you're going to work, some of the problems that I've faced in Indonesia and some of the other places, we all work in our own cocoons, own room. Hey, Ibu Marit sits in one room, she's a geologist. I sit in one room, I'm a driller. Do we talk to each other? No. How do you expect the project to succeed? Here is an example that I have done, and I was actually speaking at that. This is a project that we are just starting. Here you find even the truck driver to the chief manager is there in that meeting. Why is that important? Everybody understands what is their part in that game, number one. Everybody understands what they're going to be doing, number two. That helps to achieve success at the end of the well, so that somebody is not left. Ibu Marit says, I didn't know what you were going to be doing when I was going up to the rig floor. So here is a thing that everybody understands what is their position in the team, what is their final goal, and how can we achieve it. And these are open discussions. So sometimes we've got problems, we discuss it before we start drilling so that is taken care of. But teamwork, very important. Thank you. I think that's his last slide on this one. Go ahead. Next
Okay,
slide.
thank you so much.
Yes.
Marit and Pak Sam. Okay, I will enter the session 2 quiz using the Mentimeter again. Okay. I hope my voice are clearly and my screen clearly. Can you confirm, Farhan?
Yes, you're loud and clear. I can see your
Alright.
screen as well.
Okay, so let's play the session 2 quiz. I already set
It looks like
the
you're lagging again.
I see. Okay.
Yes, I may help you if you want to. All right, now we're going to go and engage in the next quiz session. So everyone get ready. All right, question 1 out of 3. We got 17 players ready. All right, everyone, let's go join.
Maybe we will wait 30 seconds for start the quiz.
All right, 30 seconds. All right, we'll wait for 30 seconds.
Hey, there is a tiger also in this group.
There's a ghost too.
Oh, I didn't see that guy.
Yeah. There's a snowman as well.
Oh, he's just come from Iceland.
Must be, yeah.
This is Gen Z, Sam.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Quiz session.
Is Ibu Serena, you are still breaking up. I think
Yeah.
Farhat was much. Yeah.
Okay,
All
I
right,
will turn
so
off my camera.
Yes.
Maybe Farhan, can you help me, Farhan?
yes, I can definitely help you on that one. All right, everyone. So we're gonna go ahead and start our first question here. 3-4 split ready? Are we all ready? All right, looks like it's go time now. All right, answer fast to get more points. The world's largest geothermal potential is located in which country? We've seen the map before, right? So let's see, is it India, Indonesia, or the United States of America? All right, 5 seconds left, everyone. Time's up. All right, it's the USA. It's not Indonesia. All right, we got 11 people correct. All right, let's move on to the next question here. Ooh, we have Alamak Jang on the first rank up here on leaderboard. All right, next question. Question 2 out of 3. Get ready, everyone. One of the direct uses in Lahendong is, number 1 is palm sugar processing, catfish growing, and coffee drying. Pak Sam had already talked about this earlier, yeah. All right, time's up. All right, we have palm sugar processing, which is correct. That is labeled green. Looks like Alama Jang is still on the lead. Let's move on to the next question. Question 3 out of 3. Get ready, everyone. All right. Currently, total geothermal area in Indonesia is it's the WKP or the WKP. 5 seconds left. Is it 64 WKP and 15 WPSP or 65 and 17? It's 63 on and 15. All right, we got 6 people correct here. All right, let's see who's the winner. Ooh, we have Ian. Is it Ian? Yes, we have Ian on the first place with 2,773 points. Congratulations, Ian. Please chat the Serena or Mbak Nadia in the chat room. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, thank you so much, Farhan. Maybe we can enter the session 3.
Ready.
Okay, let me share the slide. Okay. So, the first is yours.
Okay. So Marit, just for quick one. If you see the slide over here, this is one of the final product of what we did for geothermal. One of them, I said, that's a power plant there. Some of y'all who work will be working around something around this one. You may be a geologist who tells the best place to drill. You may be a driller who has drilled these wells. Then there may be a power plant operator who runs these power plants or a power plant manager. And then there may be somebody who makes sure, as we were talking earlier, has the money to do this thing, because if there's no money, there's no honey. Go ahead, Ibu Marit.
No money, no honey. That's so true. All right. So career opportunities. My understanding is that the majority of the audience, both here today, but also in general on the platform of Enerka, which I think is amazing that you offer all of this to your people to help develop and help educate. So heads off, fantastic that you do this. Career opportunities is important because we all want to see ourselves navigating that career space. Now, in geothermal, there are, of course, many roles that you can take. Sam was already referring to the difference between him and me. I am a geologist and he is a drilling engineer. And I think we talk, right, Sam? We talk. So this is important. And I guess that's also part of, in general, I would advise to everyone is that keep your communication skills to the highest level, because your technical abilities are super important. But on top of that, knowing how to communicate about them, how to talk about them, and with each other in your team will make a project successful in general. I was asked to speak on the, let's say, the first steps in a geothermal life cycle, in a geothermal project. And then, of course, the geological skill set is the most important. Before Sam can drill, he needs me to tell him where to drill. Right, Sam? That's the approach.
Yes.
So typically what you're doing in the steps A, B, and C, walking through reconnaissance, basically doing a very early sort of exploration, predominantly behind a desktop, looking at data, looking at any type of information that tells you something about the area of interest. And you're writing a report, and in that report is information that you have gathered for that data, maybe some preliminary back of the envelope calculations, seeing if there is at all any type of interest. And typically what you need in that really early on stage are people who are trained at universities or maybe have some few years of experience already in the field. But typically you would need the geologist, someone who could read geophysical data, so a geophysicist would be very helpful. But also engineering skills. I mean, ultimately, someone needs to tell whether the numbers add up, and also from an infrastructure point of view. And do not underestimate in geothermal the science of chemistry. It's super important. And hence, if there are any geochemists, a hydrochemist or geochemist that have an interest in geothermal in this group or beyond, I think it is always important to make their skill set rise, because the geochemical story is a very good story to tell as early as possible for geothermal exploration. In the second step in this whole project, let's say definition stage, is where you zoom in. Maybe someone has given the green light to go into that next step because the data provided in that very preliminary report based on the desktop study showed that there is a high potential, that there is some interesting work to be gained and getting out of the activities in that specific site of interest. And hence, this is the stage where you very likely go into the field, where you do actually some sampling, some testing, where you are going to be more detailed about the surface exploration steps. Maybe some very shallow drilling, some gradient temperature drilling to understand heat flow. But maybe also some modeling, some reservoir assessments, putting the numbers together and getting a feel for what the subsurface holds and may yield for geothermal. And again, here, your typical jobs are, again, the geologist, the geophysicist, the geochemist, but also something that we call a reservoir engineer. That's the engineer who looks at the reservoir from a mathematical point of view. The geologist will give the rock type and the rock size and some numbers around the types of fluids. But the engineer will put that in a model and do some calculations on it that make sense and also is matching with known thermodynamic calculations and methodologies. And that is important in that stage because this is a crucial moment where some real money is going to be invested in this plot of land or under this license. Because if all this looks very promising, you go into feasibility. And in that feasibility, something important is happening, and that is that Sam comes in and he is going to drill. And drilling means money, and hence this is a serious investment. Exploration drilling, appraisal drilling, and hence the whole understanding that through the well information comes that is testing the hypothesis that you have put forward as a geologist in your assessment is actually tested for real. So you have real data to work on, and hence the reports that are being drawn up based on the actual drilling, based on the engineering that is done on that drilling assessment, and hence the reservoir model that is being built, all leads to a feasibility study report that is well, leading to the next step, and that is of course full development, but that is more Sam's department. Over to you, Sam. Next slide.
So now what has happened is Ibu Marit has put her geologist goggles sitting on the surface and she's told me where to drill. Now the reservoir engineer has prepared a plan that you saw there. Now everything is ready for me to start drilling. So what do? I have to prepare a project plan, right? So that is where a drilling engineer, then there has to be a tender guy who's preparing the tenders for stuff. Then there's a civil guy who has to prepare the roads before the rig can come in. Then there is a surface facility engineer who makes sure everything is going as per plan so that he has to think in the long run. Then if you see the pictures on the left side, I just shown you a splashing of what happens. The first guy on the top is a driller on the rig. He's the one who's there in charge of it and making sure that we can get to the point where Ibu Marit told that I have to drill to. So she tells me, Sam, you have to go to 3.5 kilometers. That is where the steam sits. And she has told that she has done all her part. Now, until I do not drill that well successfully, number one, get to the bottom at 3.5 kilometers and get the steam out. Till that time, the project is not complete. Okay, now, if you see the second picture down below, next, that is a person who is there in the power plant. So after we have got the steam, then we put up the power plant. And in between that is this guy who's sitting on the ground right below there. So what he's doing is after I've drilled the well, when I'm flowing that steam that you saw in the previous picture, we do gather some, like Ibu Marit was talking of, geochemical samples. So he's gathering some samples that are coming from the well. We are trying to find out how much of steam, how much of gas is there any other minerals, is there any H2S? All those things are used by him to prepare the plan for what type of power plant should I put up. And then you see the middle picture there, that is of a power plant in operation. So if you see there are even women over there in that field. So here again comes diversity in terms of gender also. We got 50-50 on our panel also. I got one, so that is good enough. So the same thing happens in our fields. We've got even drillers, in Kenya and all. We've got, I think so, I saw Nelly was on the call, or one of them, she's a drilling engineer. She works on the field. There's another lady called Phyllis. I have enjoyed working with them on the field. Even in Indonesia, we've got people who are, so it's nothing that it's a male-dominated thing. Everybody can be a part of the team. But very important, it's a complete process together. And then after we have drilled the well, if you saw the power plant, there is one important thing that many a times we forget. There is always operation and maintenance of this whole system. Because normally when we sign the agreements to supply power, they are normally called power purchase agreements that are for normally 25 to 30 years. So you have to make sure this well that you have drilled is going to work safely, properly, generate the steam for the next 25 years. So that is why, again, I said, do not cut corners. And sometimes one of the other things I would like to stress upon when we talk of operation and maintenance, many times in a lot of countries, we do not have this concept of preventive maintenance. What do I mean by preventive maintenance? Giving you a very simple example, you should take your car to the garage or to the for regular maintenance, say after 10,000 kilometers. If it is broken down or not broken down, you have to take it. That's preventive maintenance. Whereas some people, hey, I will go to 20,000 kilometers, but then where do you find him? Sometimes broken down on the side of the street. Now he wants to fix his car. It's too late. So those are things which are very important in terms of preventive and repair maintenance. Next slide. I will touch upon this. No, I'll let Ibu Marit, because she is the most beautiful person in that picture. I'll let her go first.
Yes, well, thanks, Sam. But this is a very nice topic, because I see that there are many students, and I have, of course, a very interesting role because I travel quite a bit and I come to the most beautiful places, including Indonesia. This picture that is taken in Saudi Arabia, where I was recently I was honored to join a field trip to look at some prospective sites in the holy city of Medina. And it was very, very beautiful and very nice as well. And it looks very prospective. And the students that I've met also in Saudi Arabia, I mean, what you can see is that they have a clear wish to know more about geothermal energy, because not everyone is as used to geothermal energy, of course, as perhaps in Indonesia or other parts of the world. But there is a clear, let's say, a purpose-driven curiosity of what geothermal energy can bring to their countries or to the world in general. So climate change, and hence the understanding that geothermal energy through, let's say, your skill set as a subsurface professional, so trained as geologist or reservoir engineer or drilling engineer, can really help to mitigate the pertinent effects and in certain cases, tremendous impact of climate change. So it is very interesting to see that the younger generation really has a clear drive, a real clear drive to help contribute to a better world and a better planet. And hence the green renewable energy space is pulling. It's pulling people towards its professionalism and of course, because solar and wind are the largest when it comes down to the technologies deployed. They have the most human resources at the moment working in their respective groups or categories of work. But I really think, otherwise I couldn't be doing my role, but I really think that geothermal is rising. It is on the rise. It is getting bigger, and hence we need people. We need trained people, and we need people that are aware of the typical, let's say, subsurface challenges that we have. And hence, the more on-the-job training, getting out there in the field, working on a diverse set of projects, it will help you to build not only knowledge about the theory, but also having that practical insight and having that practical knowledge, how to operate in a team, how to work in a team, what the data tells you on site is sometimes different than what it tells you in the lab, because you have 1 minute to decide instead of hours to think. And hence, this is all very important for the people who want to enter the geothermal industry, especially from an operation point of view. Yeah, be prepared to dug in, be prepared to be there on site. Secondly, I think what is important, what we mentioned here as well, there is, of course, geothermal is a resource industry, which is what I love about geothermal. I mean, we're producing, of course, energy, we're producing electricity, we're producing heating and cooling solutions, but we are also producing critical earth minerals, such as lithium. And lithium these days is the new gold, right, Sam? It is something that is the white gold, yes, because the energy transition will require a lot of batteries. It will require a lot of storage because we will go into phasing out fossil fuels and phasing in alternatives, and hence understanding that geothermal has a productive use and a tertiary use such as developing lithium is exciting. So I guess for that, we still need bright minds, because not everything is crystal clear. There is still a need to do some R&D around how can we extract lithium from our brines? How does it serve the purpose of being sold as a commodity on the world market? Because in that case, you need to have vast quantities, not just a couple of grams. And hence new technologies, both from drilling, from turbines, as Sam was saying, about lower temperatures now producing also electricity, but also membrane technologies in terms of getting the lithium out of the brines is something super important and super interesting that as a geothermal industry we can offer to young, bright minds. So traveling is important. Going into the field is wonderful. And being that creative individual that applies his or her skills, but always is open-minded and diverse in thinking. And yeah, as it said here, you think outside the box, especially in operations. Things happen. There are situations that you did not know when you started the site drilling or the exploration work. And hence, you should be always on, right, Sam? You should be always thinking about what can the data tell you, how to act when something unexpected is happening, and be that creative thinker, but also an actual doer when that actually happens. And that's the gap that you wanted to refer to, right, Sam? So maybe over to you to say something about that wide gap between theory and practice.
Thank you. I think that is quite a critical place that we have to think about. What you do is, if you're in your universities, you learn to some extent. But now when you go to the field, be sure of one thing, there is nobody going to again spoon feed you. So when you're in the field, you have to take the initiative on yourself to be able to go and see things. Then do not be like, just, okay, I saw something, it doesn't make any change to me. No, have that reasoning. Why is it done like this? Because this is something quite important. We sometimes, you saw that big teamwork meeting that we had. We sometimes, why we have those meetings is we let even the youngest member of the team talk to us. He sees we have been probably doing it for the last 20 years. I've been doing it the same way. Now, somebody who comes in the first day, he sees, hey, this Sam has been doing this thing for the same thing for the last 20 years, but I know a better way to do it. Okay, go ahead. This is what we are talking of, thinking outside the box and helping that wide gap to be reduced. Because see, the wider the gap, that means from college to become a professional, it takes a long time. But if you can make that gap narrower, what does that help you with? It puts you, there are, like, for example, I don't know how many people pass out from UGM. Says, I'm giving an example. There are 200 people passing out from UGM every year on geology or drilling, right? If you have to be the number one guy that Pertamina comes and picks you up to work for them, you have to be that star in the group. That's number one. Then some of the people, when you talk of developing new technologies, would be there involved in research and development. This is a very critical phase of what we do. Why is that? If you see new wells being drilled, they are being drilled deeper, they are being drilled more remotely, different things are changing. So how can you develop new technologies? And for that, R&D is quite important. Last thing over there, travel. I just showed you, there are a couple of pictures there. And I wanted to show you what is the diverse regions that you travel. And for those of you who know Kenya, that is a picture from Olkaria. And the other picture on the top is actually from Dominica, the first well that was drilled on the island, and we were just flow testing the well. Now, one of the things why we have to again think of being outside the box and thinking, Marit touched upon that, thinking quick, but making the right decision. Because when you think quick, you do not go and jump into a thing, but you have to be careful. You have to think properly. At the same time, you have to think, if you make a bad decision, it's going to be a problem for you, problem for your colleagues, as well as problem for the environment. Then the second thing, for example, when we were working in Dominica, there was no oil field equipments available closely. So I had to get equipment from as far as Houston. So I have to have a whole plan in place so that before I start drilling, I have to have everything in place to be able to drill this properly. Why do I say that? Per day on a drilling rig, when you're drilling, the cost is about $100,000. So you multiply 15,000 rupees into 100,000. You can put the zeros next to that. That is the amount of money every day that you spend. So you cannot have what we called non-productive time. You cannot just have that. So you want to reduce your non-productive time to have the best result. Last of it, whenever you're working in the field, you always work in a buddy system, like how Ibu Marit and the other person went there. A buddy system is very important because you are there to protect each other. And if something happens, the other person can raise an alarm. So there, be very sure, keep your friends very close. Do not fight with them because he may be the last person who saw you. And if you have had a fight with them, he will walk away from you. Next slide. Okay, before that, I think so I was reading somewhere on the chat, somebody asked about what other things can you get from geothermal? New things, like now there's lithium. The new thing is now green hydrogen, right? Then there is other minerals that are being also extracted, right? Then there is with the fluids, carbon capture. You are actually using the carbon, pumping it back into the ground. Again, there you are using carbon capture technology and carbon storage technology. Those are again some things that will help you to reduce your carbon footprint. These are all new different things that have been developed, especially before, like example, where I'm sitting here in California, down south from here. This is one of the biggest areas where lithium is found from the geothermal brine. So what has happened? Previously, these projects used to be called power plant with lithium. But now because of the amount of, as Ibu Marit said, white gold, now it's become lithium with a power plant to support it. Now the whole thing has flipped over. In this slide, I'll let Ibu Marit talk a little bit more of, okay, there's mainly what can you all do? Engineering is one aspect. There is finance one aspect. There is geoscience an aspect. There's civil engineering. There is nothing that is left out of this whole chain that has to come together. So wherever you are, you can fit into this. Now, when you go for internships, I'd like to tell you one thing. You get an internship, it's an opportunity for you to learn practically on the field. Make the best use of that. And when you are in an internship, do the best you can, because maybe one of these companies that you are doing an internship sees, oh, this guy is pretty much different from all the other interns that I have had or have. They might call you back to work. Think of that. And then when you do your field trips, also same thing. Yeah, some of the people go for field trip to have fun. Fun is required, but you need to have some other things that you learn from the field trip. Then thesis and guest lectures or papers that you write. You can write a paper copying things from 5 different papers and make your own paper. That is not the best thing. Think of it outside the box. What can you do? That's what involves critical thinking, problem solving, and decision making. Decision making is quite important because sometimes you might reach to a stage, you have to make a decision, what do I next? Or what is the important thing in case of a problem? Now, before I close and I hand over back to Ibu Marit, the picture that I see there, it is actually one of the pictures from Kenya, where a very good thing that Kengen as a company, that's one of like Pertamina, that's Kengen in Kenya. They have a whole, every day, they almost have probably 5 or 6 buses that come every day with students who are probably coming to see what do these people do at this rig site and at the power plants. I'm sure out of that, probably at least one of them gets inspired to come back and wear that same Kengen, the orange guy who's a Kengen employee. I'm sure the other guys, at least one of them will come back to wear that same orange vest. This should be your goal also. Hand it over back to Ibu Marit.
Fantastic. I think a lot has been said already. I think what I would like to point out, because the title of this slide is how to stand out indeed in a crowd. First and foremost, your basic skills are required. And I guess whether you are doing at the moment a bachelor, a master, or you are in the early stages of your career, hone in on your skill. Regardless of whether you're the geologist or the geochemist or the reservoir engineer, get those skills right. And hence, then it becomes, let's say, what's the layer that you put on top of that, and how can you make yourself known to the other part of the world, or to another segment of the company, or how to stand out on the site or in the crowd in general, is how you present yourself, how you communicate, and how you make indeed the 3 points on the right-hand side, critical thinking, problem solving, and decision making, one of your core values and one of your core businesses, I would almost say. Because let's assume that everyone knows what geothermal energy is. Everyone knows what type of data is needed. Everyone in the crowd has a fair appreciation of the theory. But not everyone is able to talk about it in a good way, in a nice way, or in a written way. So writing is also super important. How to write a good report and get the data to your manager, for instance, in a right way, so that he or she understands it immediately and can make that decision, makes you stand out from the crowd. And equally, that presentation skill sets, communication, get up there, even when you're shy. When I did my PhD 100 years ago, when I did my PhD, I was so scared for my first presentation I had to do on my first conference. I was so scared. I was nervous for 2 days. And now I am asked to go on stage, and I do this because I am trained, I am experienced. This is 25 years later, not 100 years. It's 25 years later, but still, I am always a little bit nervous. So you need the nerves, but I guess the point of the matter is that it's okay when you are nervous in the beginning. And it's okay when it takes 3 days before you are prepared to do your first presentation. But give yourself the chance to stand out and go out there and make yourself known and heard. I think that for me is the most important things to make you stand out in a crowd. Thank you.
Great one, man. I think that was the last slide. I think
so too. It's quiz time.
Okay, everyone. I think it is the last slide that is correct. And I'd like to thank you again to Bu Marit and Pa Sam for the enlightening discussion regarding all the different career opportunities and different stages and roles in the geothermal plant development, and the motivations for us youngsters so that we can stand out. Okay, now I think it is time for the question and answer session. So it's time for our audience to engage in the session. Please, I will read out a couple questions that is quite interesting. I think I will go ahead and ask the first question, which is from Jesse Nyokabi. So he says he asked, for Indonesia, when it comes to community engagement, do you have indigenous people, and how do you handle the community engagement with them? All right, that's the first question. Please go ahead.
Okay, if I may take a jump on it. Community engagement is very critical. That's number one, because with community engagement, you have stakeholder engagement, understanding what we are doing, because sometimes if you do not let them know what we are doing, there's a lot of assumptions. But the moment you have open discussions, open exchange of ideas, and bring them even to the power plant or the drill site, things change. That's number one. Do we have indigenous communities? Yes, very much similar to what Jesse is used to in Kenya, where we have got some of the indigenous community there. In Indonesia, in different places, we've got the indigenous people, communities who are locals, who live in the area, have been a very critical part of geothermal projects that are developed. And that has been one of the success stories where we've been able to avoid a lot of lost time and other things because we have got community issues. We have been able to take care of that. And also within the Indonesian regulatory framework, there is a very clear guideline on how to have community engagement, ESIA, before you actually start the project. So that has been very helpful, even from a government perspective, like EBTKE and others who have been involved. They make sure that these projects go on well, also with the government responsibility and making sure audits are done on these projects so that they understand if there is a problem, it can be a cause of loss of life or loss of environmental issues. How can we mitigate that risk has become a very important thing. And I think so Indonesia too, overall, with different players, the operators, the government and people, everybody, the local regional stakeholders, has been a success story. Ibu Marit, anything to add?
No, I think, look, I think this is a spot on point, and Jesse, a very good point as well to raise, and Sam answer is clear. And I would like to add, maybe in general, community is everything. And hence what I see, because geothermal is so close to people's homes and hearts and minds and land and everything, it is something not to be underestimated in its future, that we need to do better in case where we haven't done so, and we need to be very much aware of understanding how we can co-create value here, because this is not just to serve electricity for the company. This is about developing communities in general all over the world and providing that access to energy and access to affordable energy, and preferably clean and green energy. And I guess this is where the biggest challenges will sit, is to get that stakeholder engagement, to get the buy-in. And part of the conversation is around the indigenous communities, and part of the conversation is also about communities in general.
Yes.
Well, thank you for the answers, Sam and Bu Marit. We do have another question now from
Farhan, sorry.
Yes.
Maybe we will open to one participants to ask directly to Pak Sam and Bu Marit. If anyone to ask directly, please use the raise hand feature.
That's a great idea.
Yes. If no one, maybe we can't. Oh, okay. For Mas Bintang Putra.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I would like to say thank you for the sharing session. It's been very interesting and insightful. My question will be from a more technical side, because here's the thing. Geothermal energy is very important in Indonesia, and it plays a significant role to create a sustainable future, as we all know. But the problem we have at hand is that the distance between the wellhead and the power plant can be quite far away. In Dieng, it can be as far as 7 kilometers, and it causes loss through transport, and the loss is not negligible whatsoever. So, from your perception, what can be done to diminish the loss during the transport, and furthermore, to increase the proper to increase the production of electricity in Indonesia? Thank you.
Okay, if I may take it first, Ibu Marit. One of the things is, yes, there is, you have the lay of the land. For example, in Dieng, having worked there, I can tell you out of practical experience, is what it is there is a resource that is there. Okay, the resource is spread across different places, and we have to bring the steam from the well or the wellhead back to the power plant. That is the most important thing. So sometimes these regions are located, the wells are located, because see, when you drill a well, you have to find a proper place to set the well and set the rig and drill the well. So that's why we look for best places there. Nowadays, what we can do is, with technology improving in terms of directional drilling and all, we can probably get more wells drilled from the same pad. That is one way to look at it. The other thing is, how do we reduce, when the steam is flowing for about 7 kilometers, there may be some loss of heat or thing from, so there we look at better insulation of the steam lines, so that is reduced. That's number 2. Number 3 is, we try to see what is the best applicable power plant technology that's available to make the best use of the steam that you have, because every resource has a different characteristic. So we have to really tailor make or adapt the technology of the power plant to be able to get the best result. Then one of the other things that they do is, currently nowadays we do is, before we actually build a bigger power plant, sometimes when these wells are far away, we first drill the wells and set up these small wellhead power plants, so that as we continue to drill more wells, because if you want a 50 megawatt well, you may need 10 wells. But if I've already drilled 1 or 2 wells and I'm generating steam, rather than waiting for the whole power plant to get constructed and wait for maybe 1 year's time, I can actually put up a wellhead turbine quickly and start generating power in probably 3 days, 3 months time. So what happens? That means I'm getting power generation or return on investment as quick as 3 months for the next 9 months. And then once a big power plant is developed, we can pipe the steam back to the big power plant. Thank you. Ibu Marit, anything you want to add? No. Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Sam and Bu Marit. Maybe one last questions. And Bu Marit and Pak Sam, please choose one best questions or interest questions for get another prize from the committee. Okay, I will read the questions that come out from anonymous participant in question and answer chat box. Do you have any suggestions for petroleum engineering fresh graduates, as in certification or anything else, that are interested in joining the geothermal industry? As an engineer, is it better to take a master degree in geothermal first, especially when we could not find a chance to join the work first as a fresh grad? Regrets.
So do you want us to answer that question?
Maybe from Marit first and then Pak Sam after that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ibu. Marit?
So yeah, this is a tricky one because I have I do think it is important when you are trained in petroleum engineering that you do, let's say, maybe do a couple of short courses or get that familiarization of the ins and outs and the specifics of the geothermal element of engineering. However, to do a complete new master, I am not so convinced that that is necessary. What I am convinced about is, of course, you have to find the job. That I appreciate, but I am convinced that working in a geothermal company will give you the required knowledge, skills, and hence the training that you need in order to appreciate the geothermal element. And hence, finding that job will probably be not coming from a geothermal degree, then be a hurdle. I get that, but maybe Sam has some ideas there. But my experience is that, yes, there are differences. Petroleum is not geothermal. I get that. I am a geologist. I've worked in oil and gas, and I am now in geothermal, and I can see the differences, but I also see similarities. And hence, where you really learn is on site, where you really learn the ins and outs of what it is that you do is in that practical, on that site, in that practical element. So my advice would be to take a few short courses, to get yourself familiar with the geothermal definitions, to build that theory around the differences and similarities between petroleum and geothermal. But I would urge you to take up a role in the geothermal industry and, learn on the job. Sam, what do you think?
Thank you for that. You're talking to a petroleum engineer who has gone to become a geothermal drilling engineer. Okay, so yes, so those who are listening to me, I did oil and gas for about 12 years, and the last 18 years I've been doing geothermal. Yes, when you're thinking switching from oil and gas to geothermal, keep one very important thing in mind. Oil and gas, we always talk of pressure. Geothermal, we talk of temperature and pressure. That's number one. And number two, oil and gas, we talk of smaller wells. Geothermal is bigger wells. Number three is oil and gas. My thing is I should get the oil out and then I can leave the well in 5 years time. And even if it goes to 5 years, I can abandon that well. Geothermal is not that way. Geothermal, you have to talk of 25 years of the life of the well. So those is quite important. And as Ibu Marit touched upon, very important is that you may not need if you have done oil and gas, you can go to geothermal, but you need a little bit of short course to understand the fine-tuned details, number one. Number two, if you have worked if you got a bachelor degree, and you may not have found work. Sometimes it's quite important to find even the smallest of work that you can find on the field. At that point, go and learn the work physically, touch and see what it is. Then it is very easy for you to, when you go even for later to a master's degree program, now when the professor is talking to you, things, oh yeah, okay, it clicks very easily. Otherwise, you are still in your bookish environment only. So it is very important that sometimes I would say, go for a master's probably after 5 years of work. Now I'll tell you an example that I'm talking about. I did my first master's in 1991. I went for my second master's in 2014 after 15 years. But that was very helpful because I had understood all the industrial aspects. And when I used to write, either research papers, it was very easy for me to apply my practical knowledge to actual research papers. And sometimes it should end up the professor used to tell me, Sam, go and talk what you have done. That was the difference. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Sam and Bu Marit, for the great answer and for the presentations. But due time constraint, we need to say sorry because we need to close the Q&A sessions. However, don't be sad for the other questions that not yet answered by Bu Marit and Pak Sam. You can reach out that questions through LinkedIn, both of Pak Sam and Bu Marit. And in the end of the sessions, please, Pak Sam and Bu Marit, choose one interesting questions. Forget the prize from the committee. Okay. Once again, thank you so much, Bu Marit and Pak Sam, for sharing your knowledge, your tips and tricks that contribute to our learning and knowledge. Thank you so much. Back to Farhan.
Thank you very much, Serena. Well, everyone, as we approach our end of the webinar, we value your feedback. To participants, please take a moment to scan the QR code on the screen and fill out the short feedback within 2 minutes. Would that be okay? All right, your input is invaluable to us to improve in the next events. Participants will only receive their certificate of the participants if they complete the feedback form. Thank you.
Marat, do you have a picture or something that you want to take of the
Yes, we do have that
participants?
session.
Ah,
Yes.
okay, fine.
After the feedback session, we'll have a
Okay.
documentation session.
Fine. Thanks, Ibu Marit. That went well.
It was nice. I learned a lot, Sam.
I learned a lot too.
Good.
Been a great presentation today,
Thank you.
Pat Sam and Bu Marit.
Super. I'm happy to
And
hear
thanks
that.
for the MC also. That was good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, I used to have a lot of friends from UGM when I used to be in Indonesia working.
Wow, yeah. Some of my alumni and alumni are also in the geothermal industry.
Right.
I'm hoping to be one of them one day. I'm still a second year though. Still a very long time, I guess.
So what are you studying for?
I'm majoring in geological engineering right now.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, Pak Sam and Bu Marit, please don't forget to pick one of the best questions for the comedy.
I'll let Ibu Marit choose that. She's the wiser of the two because she said she's 100 years she passed out. I was looking back at my calendar. When did the
All right, so it looks like we've passed 2 minutes now. I guess it's time for us to hand out a appreciation certificate to both of our speakers. So to our first speaker, Dr. Marit Brommer.
Thank you. Terima
Your
kasih.
expertise has truly enriched our discussion today. So let's give a virtual round of applause to Dr. Brommer. Thank you very much, Dr. Brommer.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih kembali. moving on, let's continue and express our appreciation to Pak Sam Abraham as well as a token of gratitude.
you.
Please give a virtual applause, everyone.
Terima kasih, matur nuwun.
Terima kasih kembali, Pak. Now, as we capture the essence of this event, let's proceed to a documentation and photo session. Everyone, please ensure your cameras are on as we capture this memorable moment. I'll be leading this, I guess. Let's make a great snapshot.
Okay, maybe while we're waiting for the other participant to turn on the camera, but Marit, are you already decide who will be receive the prize from the committee for the best questions?
So I like this because I have seen in the chat, right? I've been following the questions in the chat, yes. And I think this, the question from, my eyes, it is very early in the morning for me. Aditya Very. So about to utilize the silica, and the beauty industry requires silica as one of its products, in my opinion. Consumers will buy. I couldn't agree more. I think this is a wonderful question, and it is what I like about this, because there is a challenge with silica in the wells because it hampers flow and this and that and the other, and at the same
scaling.
time and at the same time it's an opportunity because it's a resource, and hence the question to understand more about it and how we can produce this maybe in quantities that serves the beauty industry and beyond. I think it is a wonderful one. So I would like to pick that one also because I think this is a smart question because there's business behind it, and big business because Iceland is doing this, right, Sam? They are selling the silica, so it's big business. So Indonesia become the next one.
Yeah, and you all can all the girls can become more beautiful.
Of course.
Okay.
And the man, Sam, and the man, they need their creams as well.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Marit and Pak Sam, and for Mas Aditya, please contact Mak Nadia for the further information for the prices. Okay, I will take a picture. Please smile. Okay. 1, 2, 3 for the first slide. Okay, for the second slide. 1, 2, 3, smile. And for the last slide. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, back to Farhan.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih juga, Pak. Thank you, everyone. Okay, I guess it's almost the end of our session. As we approach the conclusion of the Enter Show, I'd like to express our sincere appreciation to all the companies and organizations that collaborated to make this webinar a success. Thank you to our speakers, partners, and most importantly, to each participant for joining the session. It has been a pleasure hosting this event. I am Farhan Izzat, signing off. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the possibilities of geothermal energy. Thank you once again. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for
Bye
having
for now.
us.
Pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Ibu.
you, Pak Sam, Marit. Thank you, Pak Kasani. Thank you,
Thank you.
Marit.
Thank you,
Farhan.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.